Welcome everybody on this very sticky evening. But here it's nice, and you can stay overnight here if you want, if you like the air conditioning. But you have to sleep good tonight, and nice and cool. We're in the middle of studying the laws of Lashon Hara from the Holy Sefer Rabbi Chaim, and we mentioned 2 times ago when we learned it last, a very interesting, unexpected type of Lashon Hara. That means, usually Lashon Hara means you speak badly about somebody, but by speaking nicely about somebody it can also be Lashon Hara, like we said, by provoking people hearing it to criticize the person that we're talking about. If we talk about somebody's enemy, about their praise, the person who doesn't like him say, "Wow, you think he's such a good guy. He's not as good as you think." And he'll go on to knock the person down because he doesn't want the person to be praised. So here you're trying to praise the person, but you're causing somebody to speak badly about the person. Or in a crowd of people, you don't know exactly whose friends are, whose enemies are. Even friends, if you speak too complimentary about somebody, if you go on and on and on, some people start saying, let's not carry it away. You know, he's not that great as you think he is. You know, you're going overboard, speaking so great about him. So that's also no good. So you have to be careful, not only not to speak badly about people, but sometimes to speak praiseworthy about somebody, we have to be careful too. We never know what kind of gossip that could provoke from the people that are present. Also, along these lines, the same thing would be if we happen to be serviced or helped by somebody else in a certain way. For instance, if somebody invites somebody to his house as a guest to partake in some food, spend time there, and the guest goes out and says to him, "You know, that person, boy, what a great house that is. The greatest food they have there, and greatest hospitality they have there. Such wonderful people." So some of people that are not so nice will go knocking on the person's door. "Hey, I heard they have good food over here. I'm hungry. I don't have a family. I have to some place to eat." So a person can start a whole public kitchen by going and praising the person that he's a very big machnas oirach. He's a great person to take in company, and the person can't refuse. And it's really, can't afford it to supply the public with such good food, or they just can't have such a burden upon themselves to start having people knocking on their doors all the time and saying, "I heard you're a great people, great host." Or for that matter, if you borrowed money from somebody, and he happened to be able to lend you money, you go and tell everybody, "You want to borrow money? Go over to that guy. He has a lot of money to lend." So even though you're praising him at the time, but you might be causing on him an unfair burden. People will start knocking on his door and say, "Well, I heard you're a very benevolent, kind person, and you lend out money. How about I need money also?" And you can open up the door, and it'll make it very uncomfortable for the person. Either to say no is uncomfortable, and maybe he'll feel the pressure to say yes, and he can't really afford it. They happen to lend this person money. Doesn't mean everybody that comes along he's able to give them money. So here we have some more cases where you're praising somebody, but the praise leads to difficulties. That a person doesn't appreciate such type of praise. That's also under the blanket of Lashon Hara. It's called Avak Lashon Hara. It's the Avak means the dust of Lashon Hara. It's not Lashon Hara itself, you're not speaking badly about a person, but it's leading words that lead to the person's discomfort and not appreciated by the person to say such praises. And when a person is moving to a certain area, he's looking for a new place to live, an apartment or a house, he should try to live in an area, in a block, where the people are not the type to get together and gossip. You should find out. People move to a new home, they find out all kinds of things about the block, about if the sewage system, about the sanitation of the apartment. They do a good job over there. They would ask all kinds of questions, but they should also find the sanitation of people's habits in that area. Do they get together for good things or get together to gossip and speak Lashon Hara? If that's the type of people, that's the type of community, the type of block that's on, you don't want to move there because you'll be under pressure to join them. It's hard to refuse neighbors after a while, so we should try to stick to a place to live, place to work, place to relax, where people are not gossiping, but they're talking about things that have a purpose in life, something more spiritual type of people. If a parent hears their children speaking Lashon Hara, they might be even not bar mitzvah or bas mitzvah yet, but we have to train them and say, listen, that's Lashon Hara. Would you like people to talk about you that way? You shouldn't talk Lashon Hara. We have to train our children that they have to be careful and grow up with this idea, because it's something that a person has usually an automatic, inborn desire to speak Lashon Hara, and if we let them just feed on it, on the desire to speak, and all of a sudden they come by mitzvah, you're not allowed to talk, put on the brakes, slam on the brakes, it's very hard. We want to train them when they're younger, that they should already be aware and careful not to talk about their friends or not talk about their teachers or their Rebbe or somebody that older than them or younger than them or peers. We want to train them that they should be careful not to speak Lashon Hara. And just like we have to protest when we hear our children, the same thing when we're in a group of people that are speaking Lashon Hara, we also have to try to tell them in a nice way, come on boys, let's get the conversation something more constructive, not destructive, not to knock anybody down. Let's try to build people up instead of knocking down. It's easy to knock down, but to put together is not so easy. So, but that's what we have to try to do. Another interesting thing, which Rabbi Chaim mentions here, which is very and happens to come upon our life, we have a prohibition not to tell private information to people, called Megala Sod, to disclose a secret or private information about somebody else. It's not of our business to do that. If a person tells us something, we're told that whatever he tells us is considered private unless he gives us permission to tell other people about it. But we have to assume when somebody tells us information about himself that this is something that's between you and him. It's not for public consumption, not for people to know, unless he says that he gives permission automatic says saying that explicitly gives permission to tell other people this information. Sometimes people have certain medical issues that some people confide in one another, but they're not interested for the whole world to find out about it. And the person who knows about it has to keep it to himself. It's not Lashon Hara, it's not bad about the person, but it's private. And we have to respect the person's privacy. And if he tells us something in confidence, we have to be careful not to tell anybody else about it. Whether maybe he has certain types of money that he owns, certain property that he owns, certain business he might own, silent partner, different things that people might have. It's nothing wrong with it. It's not Lashon Hara. But it's private. It doesn't want people to know about it. You can have 100 reasons why he doesn't want people to know about it. So we have to consider anything that's told us by somebody else as private, unless the person tells us that he doesn't mind if he tells somebody. That's an important law here in these words of speaking. It's not really, well, in a way it's gossip, but it's not bad about the person, but it's something that's private. So now we're about to try to explain, which last week we came upon a very misunderstood part of the Torah that, just to recap, Dinah, the daughter of Yaakov Avinu, daughter of Leah, big tzaddiket, very righteous woman. She's a girl, a young girl. Maybe she was 5, maybe 8. We don't know exactly how old she was. Maybe 10. She's not bat mitzvah yet. And again, we say that it wasn't like today, a little girl. They were very mature at those times. They matured very young. And they went to the city of Shechem. Shechem raped her. And it was a very big tragedy in the family. Yaakov was meeting with Shechem and his father Hamor. And they made a deal. They said, we'd like to become one nation. The father Hamor said, my son Shechem, the bad guy, the low-life guy, he'd like to marry your daughter. He fell in love with her. And we can become one nation. We'll all live together. This is a very fertile land over here. Everybody will be happy. And the answer of the brothers, the 11 brothers of this single sister that they had, that they were very upset about what happened, responded by saying that we cannot become one nation if you people are uncircumcised. That's considered an embarrassment to us. What you have to do is circumcise yourself. And if you'll do that, then we'll be able to live together and to be one nation. But if not, there's no deal. We take our sister back, as if they could take her back so fast, but they talk with confidence. We'll take her back and we'll be on our way. And like I said in Yiddish, chadach and bod, whatever before in Yiddish. Chadach and bod, no, it's leave me alone, and nothing to do with you. So they went ahead and they took the challenge, and the whole city, some say there was about 500 people and men in the city, 500 men, that was a small town village. That's what some opinions say. And they went ahead and they circumcised themselves. Unbelievable type of thing, that everybody should agree to such a thing. It wasn't a simple thing for older people. It's a big operation, very painful. But they did it. And the third day that went by after, when they were very pained and weak, Shimon and Levi, the 2 sons of Yaakov, took the swords, killed out the whole city. They killed out Shechem and Hamor, took out the women, the children. They didn't kill them. and they took all the belongings of the city, and they went on their way. And they took Dinah out also, naturally. So we have number one, which was mentioned last week on our sheet, Vataisi Dinah, the rest of B'nai Haaretz. She went out to see the girls of the land. There is a medrash that says that it wasn't so. We're trying to figure out why Yaakov suffered this punishment. It was a very big embarrassment for him and the family. It was very upsetting to them. It's something that's so not Jewish to happen. Why did he suffer this punishment? Well, one thing we mentioned last week briefly, partially Dinah went out, and she shouldn't have, because they were not great people. They were very low-life people, and she should have anticipated that maybe something's going to happen. Don't put yourself in a situation of problems. We're told that Shechem got wind that she was there, and he got a bunch of the girls of the town to go in front of her house with music, and they were dancing, and they made themselves very modest looking. He wanted to entice her to come out to join the fun. Right in front of her house, they made a whole little party there with dancing and singing, and got together to come out. She didn't want to go out. She didn't go out so simply. And Yaakov Avinu didn't want her to go out. But since they enticed her in such a way, right in front of the house, just in front of the house, what's so terrible, just for a few minutes to see what's going on, to be friendly, after all, in the city, just to turn their back on them. So this was the plan of Shechem, which he came up with. It was a good plan for his purpose, and it wasn't good for them, for her. And that's how they got her to go out, but it was not something that she should have done. Especially Jewish girls, women supposed to be modest and not go and show herself in front of people that are not fine people, that are not the type that you want to have any connection to. That was the first thing that was done wrong. But we find something else that our rabbis tell us why he was punished, which is almost unbelievable. If you remember, a few weeks ago we studied how Esav came and met Yaakov Avinu with the whole to-do, what he was afraid, he's getting ready and so on. And his whole family met Esav, except one person did not meet Esav, and that was Dinah. And Dinah, he hid away, he put her in a big box. Esav shouldn't see her, because he was afraid, just like this low-life Shechem was going to want a Dinah, he was afraid Esav was going to want a Dinah. He didn't want Esav to have any slight inclination that she's going to marry him. She'll have any connection to him. He hid her away. And God had a complaint to Yaakov Avinu. Maybe. Why did you hide her away for? Maybe it was a good idea. Maybe if Dinah would have married Esav, maybe she would have made him into a tzaddik. Maybe it's not such a terrible idea. Now, the commentaries have a very, very difficult time with this, because it seems absurd on the surface. Esav was almost 100 years old, and Dinah was a little girl, so to speak, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, in that range. And what are the odds of who's going to influence who? Will Dinah influence Esav, who's almost 100 years older than she is? Or will Esav influence Dinah, maybe that she'll not be a tzaddikus and made her into a Rasha like he was? Is that a fair complaint to have with Yaakov Avinu? I think if we'd be in that situation, we'd put her in 2 boxes, or 3 boxes, never 1 box. Instead of becoming this professional wicked person, and come to give our daughter to him, maybe she'll make him into a tzaddik. Maybe he'll make her into a nun. But we said before, we don't look at those children at the age and the level of today's children. And imagine what they pulled off over here on Shechem. They were not much older than she was. Reuven and Shimon were only about 13, 14. They were considered, they were mature people at then. They grew up much faster, and they were very knowledgeable in the world, and they were very in control of things. And it seems that this Dina must have been a very, very special person. She must have a lot of personality and a lot of knowledge. And she was a person who could affect and influence Esav. Yaakov was afraid, and God said, too afraid. She could have done the job. And since you didn't give her over in a way proper for her, legitimate way, therefore he's punished that she'll be taken in an illegitimate way. This is another reason why we find that he was punished, because God is very, to his tzaddikim, he's very, very medactic, very, very sensitive to their actions, and it demands perfection. And if they don't do exactly what they should be doing, God punishes them, because he wants to make them more perfect, to bring them to a higher level. And that's number 2. Mona Oisa mi Esav. Kept her back from Esav. Imagine that. But we see from over here how important it is for us, if we're able to have a good influence on other people. We can't keep things for ourselves. We can't pat ourselves on the back and say, well, I'm a righteous person, and I do the right thing, and I do what God wants me to do, and I do what the Torah wants me to do, and that's enough. It's not enough. We see from over here, we learned a very, very strong lesson, that if we're able to influence somebody else in a good way, we cannot sit back and say, I'm a good person, and that's enough. It's not enough. If we're able to have influence and on somebody else in a good way, we have to do our best to get the other person to act and live in the way God wants us to live, as a Jewish person is supposed to live. And this is a holy obligation on every Jewish person to not only make ourselves righteous, but the best we can to make others righteous. This is a very strong lesson that we see from here. A third reason it's brought down number 3, God, right after the story, told Yaakov Avinu, you're taking too long. If you remember, when Yaakov left his father's, mother's house almost over 20 years ago, he made a vow to God that he will make an altar, a mizbeach, and he will serve God and thank God for the great goodness that God showed him. If he'll be able to go through what he went through and come out and not be harmed, he's going to get special praise and special service to God. In a certain place that he was, on the way when the God came to him in the dream, if you remember, the dream with the angels going up and down the ladder, he said he'll come back to that place and he will serve God in a special way. And that was a vow that he made, and he didn't keep the vow yet. He was on his way back, but God's saying, you're taking too long, If you take a vow to do something, you can't wait, you can't detain, you have to do it as soon as possible. He already left Lavan's house, it was already over a year ago. Of course, to travel then wasn't easy. It wasn't like today, you happen to, if we traveled today from where he went to where he was going to, it would probably take a few hours by car. Today they have roads and so on. That time it took months. He had to travel through mountains and over rivers, and he had his whole family with the children, with all the cattle. It was very difficult to travel then. It takes today a few hours. By helicopter, you can make it in 20 minutes. And then it took months. So it wasn't easy. But God said, a person like you, I expect perfection. Don't delay. And here we also learn a very important lesson. We have to learn all the lessons from as much as we can from the Chumash. That's what we're learning it for. God gave us the Torah to learn lessons from it. Not to speak bad about people and not to tell about punishment about people. We're supposed to pick up on it and apply it to our daily lives. When it comes to doing a good thing, we should do it as soon as we can and not delay. If we take a vow to give charity, for instance, we promise to give to the shul or give to a yeshiva or give to a Bikkur Cholim, people, organization, or do good, kind things to people, we should make sure to pay up as soon as we can and not delay. Or if we're supposed to help somebody, we should help them as soon as possible and not put it off. Even though there's reasons to put it off and whatever it is, you have to have real good reason to put off a good thing. Once we take upon ourselves to do something, we should do it as soon as we can. We have a general cause reason, Makdim and La Mitzvah. People that are fastidious, they do a mitzvah very quickly. Okay. So, now let's get to the point. We had a lot of questions. Number one, what was the excuse or the motivation for the brothers to kill out the whole city? Why did they do that for? Somebody did a wicked act in the city, therefore the whole city is supposed to be killed out. Number two, why was Yaakov Avinu so angry at them? If he's angry now, he's angry for many years afterwards for what they did. He was sitting there. He knew what they said. He knew that what they made up, that will circumcise them. So he knew about the plan. And all of a sudden, they execute the plan, and he gets angry at them. And number three, he did not rebuke them for killing out the people. He didn't say, how could you kill out those people? That's not what he said to them. What he said was, what's going to happen now? They're going to gang up on me. All the neighboring cities are going to see what we did. They're going to all gang up on me. They'll kill us all out and destroy us. How could you do a thing like that? Sounds like what they did wasn't bad, but they shouldn't have done it because of other reasons. We have in the number 4, quoting from the Rambam, Maimonides, Al Shisha Dvorim Nitztav Adam Harishon. Adam and Eve were commanded on 6 different commandments. Number 5, Avodah Zorah, idol worship. They were not allowed to serve idols. There's only one God, the true God. Well, Birkas Hashem means, the word literally means to bless Hashem. It really means to curse Hashem. But we don't want to say those words, but to bless Hashem. Not to curse Hashem, not to curse God. Some people get angry at God and they Shvichas Damim, murdering. Another mitzvah of the Rishon was commanded, and for all humanity afterwards, Gila Arayas, on forbidden sexual relations, Val HaGezel, stealing, Va'al Hadinim, that they must appoint courts to enforce these laws. Those were 6 laws that Adam Harishon, Adam was commanded by God when he was created. And number 6, Noach, who came 1,000 years later, he picked up a fourth commandment from God, Ever min hachai, it's forbidden to eat a part of an animal which is alive. That is a law still today. Some people eat live animals today. I don't know if you're aware of it. Certain countries, Chinese and other people like that, they can cut off a piece of it or eat it while it's still alive. I don't think they have lobsters today. They put lobsters into boiling water and it's still alive, something like that. I think they do. And if they're still alive when they eat them or not, I don't know. Sheish Arayas, in number 7, the 6 forbidden relationships that the non-Jews are commanded. We as Jewish people have many more than that. They have 6. What are the 6? Aim, relations with the mother, sexual relations with the mother, Ashes of, a father who marries a woman, even though it's not his mother, stepmother. Ashes Ish, a married woman. Achose me'imai, a sister from the same common mother. Same common father would be permitted for a non-Jew, only the same common mother. Zochar, male with a male. Ubehema, relation with an animal. These are the 6 relations that are forbidden for Ben Noach, according to the Rambam over here. Now, if the Ben Noach do not keep the Noahite, these are called the 7 Noahite laws. The 7 Noahite laws. Of course, there's a lot of details in each one, but basically, arayas, and then arayas means 6 arayas, 6 forbidden relationships. They are punishable by, if the court has a right to give them the death penalty. If they are transgress any of these 7 laws, they are liable to get the death penalty. They don't have many laws at all. We have 613. The non-Jews have 7, but they have to be kept. Now, what type of people were the people in Shechem? This was in Eretz Canaan, the Canaanim. This was Yaakov Avinu came into the land of Canaan. We call it the land of Israel today, Palestine, different names it has over the generations. But the Holy Land, another name for it. He was in the Holy Land now. It was Shechem. He came from out of the Holy Land, where he was for over 20 years, and now he entered into the Holy Land. And these are the Canaanites, we call them. What type of people were they? Well, we see later on that they were very, very low-life people. Because when the Jews came into the land of Israel later, after they came out of Mitzrayim, and they were 40 years in the Midbar, in the desert for 40 years, and God's telling them, you're about to enter the land of Israel, the Holy Land. Now I'm going to quote in the 5th book, in Devarim, Deuteronomy we call it, in the Parsha of Re'eh. God says to the Jewish people, I'm quoting in English, when God will cut off the nations that you're coming there to inherit their land, you'll conquer them, you'll inherit the land and you'll live there. Be careful. After they're destroyed, don't become connected to them. Don't start looking to their gods. They'll say, well, look, they're serving those gods. Why can't I serve those gods? Don't do so to God, your God. All the disgusting acts that God hates, they do to their gods. Which we have on our glossary sheet, number 8. Their sons and their daughters, they burn in fire to serve their gods as sacrifices to their God. Disgusting acts that God hates. That's what they do, all kinds of terrible things. This is what you want to be? This is the type of religion you want to be part of them? This is the type of people we're talking about. These Canaanim, these people of Shem. We're talking about these people serving idols and doing all kinds of hideous actions, killing their children, burning them alive to the gods. We'll turn back to the parsha of Achrei Mos, Kedoshim. Here we have the parsha where God's telling us all the relationships we're not allowed to have, relatives which are forbidden for the Jewish people, many more than 6 of them. And God's telling the Jewish people to be careful. After it lists all the different arayas, the different relationships that are forbidden. And it mentions also the ones that are mentioned for the non-Jews, naturally. We also have the same ones, plus many more. A male with a male is forbidden. Relationship with an animal. And God said, Al titamu, don't become impure. All the nations became impure they did all these things. I'm chasing them away from you. You're coming into the Holy Land. You're going to conquer them. You're going to chase them away. This is what they did. All these forbidden actions, besides avodah zarah, burning the children in fire, having relationships with that they're forbidden for them to do, with animals, with males. The whole land became tamei. And the land spit them out. The land is too holy for them. For them to stay there and do these abominable acts, these disgusting acts, the land of Israel cannot tolerate them. The toki, the earth, has spit them out. It's like somebody who eats something that's not fit for human consumption. Spoiled food. You throw it up. Can't stand it. You give it to a dog to eat, the dog, nothing happens. You give it to a human being, you throw it up. Because a human being is too sensitive, his system is too sensitive to eat kind of food that's spoiled. An animal could eat it. The same thing, a different land could take it. Right? It's Israel, the Holy Land, spits them out. Can't stand this type of thing. You're making the land unclean, you're making it disgusting. Don't do all these disgusting acts. All these acts, that's the one I quote over here, and the last one. These are what they're abominable, disgusting. This is what they did, and that's why I'm throwing them out, and you're coming in their place. So you better not do the same thing. Quoting again, and Kedoshim, the same thing again. So this is the people we're talking about. We're talking about people that are disgusting people. They're doing all these terrible actions. They were Chayiv Misa. They were people who did all these things, these disgusting things, and they were supposed to be put to death for the actions that they did. They were supposed to get the death penalty for doing all these terrible things that they did. And what the brothers did was not something that we accused them of murder. They should have done it themselves. They should have courts to enforce the laws. They didn't have that either. They didn't enforce anything. They were just people, didn't bother them. They didn't care what happened to Dinah. It didn't bother them. That was happened all the time by them. Rape, all the time. It's nothing. They did it all the time. So the worst things, much worse than that. So Yaakov, because Yaakov is a great person, a holy person, he can't tolerate it. But they tolerate it. It doesn't make any difference to them. That was every day. What else is new by them? So they were guilty, and they were worthy of to get that penalty that they got. Yaakov Avinu was not upset that they killed him out. They were worthy getting it. They deserved it. What he had in mind was, didn't have a chance to talk, by the way. If you notice the psukim, like the commentators point out, that before the brothers came back from the field, Hamor Older was talking to Yaakov Avinu. They didn't have a chance to talk together. In the middle of the conversation, Hamor came, give your daughter to my son Shechem. In the middle, they came in, they didn't have a chance to discuss. So they came with this plan. Yaakov thought, what are they going to do? They're going to say, in order for us to become one nation, you have to circumcise yourself. So they said, we're crazy. A whole city can circumcise themselves. No deal. No deal. Good. Goodbye. We'll take her back. Or, if they would go ahead with it, they'll all be weak on the third day. They'll go into the house, pull them out, and run away. He didn't have. They're going to kill them out. That's not what he didn't realize that. He didn't think they were going to do that. He said, one of two things. It was a great plan, he thought. Tell them you have to circumcise. Otherwise, we can't become one nation. Most probably they'll refuse, and therefore we can't no shidduch. If they don't refuse, they circumcise themselves, so they're weak on the third day. They won't be able to resist us. We'll come and take Dinah home and take her. But they didn't realize what's going to happen. Shimon and Levi had a different plan. We go out and kill them all out. When it happened, Yaakov wasn't angry at them for killing them. He knew that they were deserved to be killed out. They're the most wicked people, disgusting people, low-life people, bunch of bums, what they were. They had all these disgusting things that God tells us later. I don't want you to be this way, like we quoted before. That's why they were thrown out of the land. The land spit them out after a while. That wasn't the point, but he said to them, but what's going to be? All the nations around us are going to gang up on us. And that's what he's upset about. Well, we're a little overtime now. We didn't quite finish everything what happened afterwards, exactly what happened to Dinah. Dinah, just briefly talk about Dinah, was schlepped out of there. She didn't want to even leave the house. She was so upset and so embarrassed. They had a mama pull her out. She was too embarrassed to face anybody. And we're told that a child was born. Mentioned last time, there was a child born. And that child was named Osnas. And Yaakov Avinu put a necklace around her and said her name is Osnas, and she was sort of given up for adoption. She ended up in the land of Mitzrayim. The daughter was born. And that was the wife of Yosef HaTzadik, who years later went to Mitzrayim, was kidnapped, taken to Mitzrayim, and he ended up marrying Osnas, which is really his niece. She was a big tzaddikus. So I'm just saying briefly the whole thing, what happened over here. But this is something that, at first glance, it seems like an impossible reaction from the brothers, but when we look into it deeply, we see that what they did was on target, except Yaakov had his reason to be upset, but not the way it seems. So that's another portion of the Torah that we climax tonight. And the Ritz Hashem, next week, we're having our good people coming in. I'll be away for the summer, but we'll have next week some better people coming in, either Rabbi Biderman or Rabbi Solomon. I'm not sure what they're making up yet. And we'll have next week, I hope everybody will attend. And for the next few weeks, something else might be in the cooking about happening. We're not sure yet. But next week will be a regular class. So, anybody who would like to, any comments on what we're talking about?
Rabbi, I have two questions. One is regarding the commandments for Adam. Now, when God gave us the 10 commandments, what exactly determined which 10 ended up? Because some of them are all different, right, than In other words, we don't see a commandment. One of the 10 commandments is do not commit homosexuality, right? So what determined exactly what goes on our 10 commandments versus the laws of Noah and Adam and so on?
Well, the 10 commandments, I'm glad you brought it up because I didn't have a chance to talk about it, but now I'll be able to talk about it. I wanted to talk about it a little bit. They are considered the outline of all 613 commandments. And all 613 have a root and a connection to one of those 10. And it says, Loisinaf, not to commit adultery. That includes all of the forbidden relationships, whether it's between man and woman, relatives, man and man, man and animal. That's considered, that's all included in Loisinaf. You should not commit adultery. It's very upsetting that we are living in the time now of, imagine the Supreme Court giving a ruling that same-sex marriages are permitted. This is the beginning of the downfall of Sodom and Oorah. They had such a law, same-sex marriages. And the President of the United States, the most powerful person, giving a call to the people, congratulating them for pushing this through the Supreme Court. It's just very upsetting and very disheartening. Even though he himself, I don't think he really holds with himself. He's a pretty decent guy, I think, the president. But because it's America, it's democracy, and it's freedom, so therefore he has to uphold the Constitution. I don't know, he had to call him up and give him congratulate him. I don't go along with that. But the fathers of the country who wrote the Constitution never dreamt in their wildest dreams to give freedom to such type of actions, such type of behavior. They were religious people. They weren't Jewish, but they're religious people. And they never, in their wildest dreams, had in mind what goes on today. The people who are protected by the Bill of Rights to do all these terrible things. The answer is that a country cannot exist without religion. If you have religion, that has to be more important than, you have freedom of religion, but it has to be religion. If there's no religion, then there's no boundaries what can happen. People can do all disgusting type of things, and they're protected by the Constitution. And this is impossible. This is the decay of our whole country, of our whole life, that these things are becoming more and more accepted, and this is the beginning of the end of the greatness of the country that we live in so many years. Us and other people live here, but there's a real decay of principles, of decency, and God's not going to take it sitting down. I mean, I hate to say it, but we see what different things happening, terrible things happening, all kinds of floods never had before, all kinds of fires. These are coming from God. It's not coming by themselves. This is very much likely that it's reaction to what's happening. After this Supreme Court thing, which is the most disgusting thing they ever did before, who knows what's going to happen? Because we're becoming a very evil kind of civilization that God calls abominable, death penalties, even for non-Jews. We're talking not Jews, not a Jewish country. And to go and give a sanction, and the President of the United States should go ahead and congratulate them. They're invited to their wedding. We don't know if he's going to attend the wedding or not. Their wedding, Echmer wedding. But this is something that we have to be very sensitive to, because we're living in this society, and after a while we get immune to it, we get desensitized. Yeah, it's not bad, not so bad, not so bad, everything. It's bad, it's terrible, it's disgusting, it's abominable, God hates it. And we have to keep thinking to ourselves and not be affected by what's going on around us. This is not Jewish, this is not non-Jewish, never mind Jewish, it's not non-Jewish. This is something that God gave Adam, Gan Eden, the first man he created, do not do this thing, this is forbidden. And now, called the first world countries, the ones that are considered very, very, they're very modern and very up to date on their values. We've slipped into a very terrible, deep hole of lack of values with this decision.
Very well said, Rabbi. One more question for you. So, these laws that you just mentioned, what are some of the instances that we see in the Bible where these have been committed? Now, I know one of them is King David when he put somebody's, Bathsheba's husband on the front line so he'll get killed. I remember there was a story. What were some of the other sort of bigger events where, Am Yisrael violated these laws of, homosexuality or what have you?
They didn't violate them. You don't find it because they didn't violate it. King David also didn't violate it. You have to study it deeply, what happened there. It's not what sounds like on the surface. When the Jewish people violated these laws, it was very, this was disgusting to them. When the Jewish people in history, lately now, because people are so far from religion, you feel it happening. But really in the Torah, you find that they did such things. The people try to do it to the Jewish people, come across in the Torah certain things also later on. Besides what happened now with Dina, with other things, but Jewish people themselves, these things were of course, we find that for serving idols that the Jewish people did, but it has to be, the golden calf sounds like an idol that they worship, the Torah talks about. But these things have to be explained when we come to them. But homosexuality, these type of things, the Jewish people weren't into it. They were far from that.
Thank you.
Okay, we have an online question. New Jersey. Should Jews celebrate the 4th of July? And if so, how should they do so? How should they celebrate the 4th of July?
Well, we have to show that we're patriotic. We're in the country, that the 4th of July is a great day to remember for the country, the day of independence from the British rule. And the country we live in is freedom of religion, that the Jewish people are enjoying freedom of religion, which they almost never enjoyed over the generations. So we have to thank God in a way that we are in the country, that we are free to do what we want, religiously speaking. A lot of Jewish people, even religious people, put on the American flag on the 4th of July to show our patriotism to the country. But it's not a holiday. It's not a Jewish holiday. It's of course, you get off from work, it's called a holiday, but I mean, to celebrate it as a holiday, as Purim or Hanukkah, we're certainly not supposed to celebrate. We don't have special festive meal or whatever it is. We can sort of celebrate it in a way, thanking God, thank you for this day that you made Columbus discover America. It was all God's doing, and eventually, that was about 500 years ago, and now we're able to enjoy freedom of religion. So we have to have a thanks to God for having this day, but we don't celebrate in any way that we celebrate Jewish holiday. We have to show our patriotism to it, and show that we appreciate the country we're in, we appreciate the government we're in. We have to appreciate that because we're enjoying such benefits. So to that extent, we have to appreciate. We celebrate it by appreciating. That is how we celebrate it. Or by hanging out an American flag, as some people do, to show appreciation. I think in Lakewood, they used to put out a flag, I think, on the 4th of July, to invite the yeshiva. Yeah. That's what I would answer this person.
Rabbi Mintz, I have a question I've been intellectually curious about for a while, but it might sound a little odd, so I'm just going to...
Good, we like lots of questions.
We're taught by tradition that Mashiach has to come by the year 6,000, right? Before 6,000 years pass. But there's more than one way to calculate a year. There's a year that's like a solar year, which is 365 days. There's a year that could be a lunar year, which is 354 days. And then there's also like a calendar year, the Jewish year, which actually combines both, that we follow all the holidays by the moon. But since Hashem commanded that we have Pesach in the spring, we have a leap year. So I was just curious, in the source of the Torah where it says it has to come by 6,000 years, does it specify which year it would be? Like, would it be based on the sun, the moon, or the Jewish calendar?
Well, it's all the same amount of years. It comes out to the same amount of years.
But a lunar
Since
year
we
is...
have, yeah, the days are different, but the years are the same. Because we always make up with the leap year that the years are the same. They're never
So it's based on the
different.
Jewish calendar?
Yeah, no, if let's this year is 73 by the Jewish calendar, and it's 13 on the non-Jewish calendar. So we have the gap between the two, 17, 6 years between now. 20 years from now, it'll also be 6 years between the two. They're always, it doesn't get ahead of each other, go behind each other. It's always the same. Every year, the Jewish year corresponds to the non-Jewish year, to the solar year. Since we have a leap year every few years, so therefore we don't get behind at all. We're always the same amount of years between will be forever. So it's not going to make any difference.
Okay, but if we just calculated the year based on the moon rotation, right, and we didn't connect it,
Yeah,
so
but
it's not based on...
but
Just the Arab count. The Arabs count. The Arabs have a lunar calendar, completely lunar.
oh really?
That's what I'm told. That's what I'm told. I don't know. We have a question online. Hope, I don't know the last name, has the following question. This
Hope
might-
is any question? Oh yeah, okay.
Okay.
I thought it's the Pope or Hope.
No,
What are you
not the
saying?
Pope. Hope.
Hope. Yeah, okay.
Pope is not. We're not up there yet.
You never know.
Somebody wants to know what makes a Hebrew name official. In other words, when she was a child, when she was a baby, her great aunt Gussie named her Chanafega. She doesn't know much more about that, except then when they're becoming a little more observant now, her daughter chose a Hebrew name, and she gave a Hebrew name to her son, and now her son wants to add a third Hebrew name, because he's named after his grandfather and his great-grandfather. He wants to also be named after another great-grandfather. Can he change his name like that? And she wants to know about getting if there's a formal certificate that formalizes the name.
Is official or official? You said the name official, or you said
Oh, official.
official? Oh, I thought you said, where did the name official come from? I don't know.
How to make a Hebrew name formal. How to formalize a Hebrew name, and could somebody change their name or add a name? And is there a certificate that's associated with this?
The formality of a Jewish male is the time of the bris. When he is circumcised, that's when he gets his name. And that name stays with him. You don't change it. Only, God forbid, somebody's very, very ill, so then we change the name. We don't change it, we add on a name. You don't change the original name stays. We just add another name in order to make a person like he's somebody else, whatever, not going to that, what's behind it. But that's what makes the person's name. We don't add on names afterwards for no reason. Once it's named by a bris, a certain name, that name stays, unless somebody made a mistake and called the wrong name at the time. For today we have people that are very uneducated, and they give names of wicked people. They're unknowing they're doing it, and certainly that name should be changed afterwards when they find out. There's some Jewish people call themselves Nimrod. And Nimrod was a very wicked person who was fought against God, and they don't realize the words that are said about Nimrod, that he had Gibur Tzai Lefnei Hashem, it says he was a strong man in front of God. They said, look, he was a great man. But the rabbis tell a strong man in front of God, to fight God, not in front of God. He wanted to fight him. He's wanted to throw Abraham into the burning furnace. So if a person has the name Nimrod, and later they find out that they made a mistake, the name should be canceled totally and given a different name. But other such names are also the same way. But generally speaking, whatever name is given at the time of the bris by a girl, the name's given in shul shortly after the baby's born, within a week to 10 days, and that is her official name, and that stays with her. It should not be changed, unless, again, chas v'shalom, to become deathly ill, and they want to change the name to help them survive. But otherwise, you don't add any name, keep adding on names. You don't do that. But the game's given the time to bris for a boy, the time of the official naming in shul for the girl, that we're told is not just a happening, but God puts the name into the parents' mouth if they are worthy of it, and that shows the essence of the child that was born. If it's called Avraham, then some kind of connection to Avraham. Maybe he's a Baal Chesed, he's a very benevolent person, but his neshama, his soul, has a connection to Avraham. And God puts into the name of parents, if they're worthy of it, that they will give the name of the child which belongs to him, which is appropriate for him, and therefore the name should never be changed. And you don't add any other names afterwards, unless circumstances. Okay.
The Dina in the course of Torah, how Dina's life was going on after this incident?
What was Dina's afterwards?
Yes.
That's an interesting question. She was taken into the house of Shimon. Shimon was one of the two brothers who went and killed out Shechem, Shimon and Levi. They came to take Dinah out of the house of Shechem, like I mentioned before very briefly. She said, I'm not going. I'm too embarrassed. I can't face society. What was done to me, I'm not. They said, no, you got to come. I'm not coming. They took her by the hand. They left her out. The mom dragged her out of the house. She didn't want to come. And then she said, Shimon, I'm only going to, okay, only if you adopt me, I come to your house and live by you. So Shimon lived in my house the rest of her life by Shimon. And she was buried in the land of Israel. Her grave is known today, where it is. And the question whether she died and she was buried before they went to Egypt, or she went down with them to Egypt and they took her bones with them, like they took the bones of all the other Shvatim with them, exactly when, but she was taken care of by Shimon, was adopted by Shimon, her brother Shimon, who took care of her the rest of her life. No, she didn't marry. But she had the child, Osnas, who married Yosef, who had great children, so she had great grandchildren, Ephraim and Manasseh, all the great children afterwards. So God has his ways.
Okay, one of our regulars, Aaron Cohn from Philadelphia, wants to know that there are, he understands that there are two Mashiach, there's Mashiach ben Yosef and there's Mashiach ben David. And he wants to know if Mashiach ben Yosef has to be killed before Mashiach ben David comes.
Chazal say that's going to happen.
I might pay to explain what's going on over here.
Well, we don't know too much information about these. Like the Rambam says, we know that will be a Mashiach. We know there'll be the living of the dead people will come alive. We know there'll be a world to come. These three stages: Mashiach, Tchias HaMesim, the living of the dead to come to life. Those people would be worthy of it. Not everybody is going to get up by. When the dead get up out of their graves, not everybody will be worthy of getting out, but those people that are worthy, and we know there's a world to come, but we don't know too many details about it. There's different passages in the prophets that talk about it, which are very vague, and we don't know exactly what it means. And we're told Mashiach ben Yosef will come first and he'll be killed, and the Mashiach ben David will be the ultimate Mashiach. Yeah. Well, exactly what they're going to do, I can't tell you exactly what their place is going to. Mashiach ben Yosef is going to set the stage. Mashiach ben David. Eliyahu Navi also is going to come and set the stage. Eliyahu Navi is going to come to announce, Elijah the prophet is going to announce the coming of Mashiach. Exactly what that's going to be, how that's going to happen. Mashiach is going to come on a donkey, riding on the donkey, which has certain significance to it. I may discuss a different time. But Mashiach ben Yosef is also part of the preparation of the coming of, he will start fighting the wars against the Jewish people. We talk about the great war of Gog and Magog, a terrible war of destruction, which some people say that's Iran. It has to do with Iran now, whatever. It has to. Some people thought it was the Holocaust. Maybe that was Gog and Magog. Great destruction. Seems not to be. Can't be sure. And the different great prophecy of destruction of the fire and was going to burn everything and so on. It's all kinds of things like that talked in the prophets, which people is about that could be the atom bomb. Who knows what Iran's preparing this bomb, whatever. We don't know exactly how to put things together until it happens. We know something's going to happen. Something spectacular is going to happen. But exactly, and Chazal tell us how we can protect ourselves from called Chevle Mashiach. Just the pains of coming to Mashiach will be great pains when the Mashiach comes. Just before a baby's born, that's the worst time for the woman. Feels the pain the most. Before Mashiach comes, that's the pain. Called the same with Chevle Leda, the pains of birth, the pains of Mashiach, called the pains before great things happen. Great pains happen. So great pains are going to happen to the world before Mashiach comes, and Chazal gives us the prescription how we can save ourselves from those pains. But it'll be great wars going on, and Mashiach ben Yosef will be part of the war, and he's going to be killed, and then Mashiach ben David is supposed to come afterwards to finish the job off, and then the thing will be peaceful from then eternally. So that's about all I can tell you about. We don't know exactly any details. We just know klolim, general things, but particulars we don't know. The Rabbi himself says. Any other questions or comments? Oh, yes.
Trying to find out about the holidays, because I heard different, rules. If somebody go to Israel, if you have to keep 2 days or 1 day, and then if someone come from Israel here, if you have to keep 2 days or just 1 day.
Yes. Here, in Galut, we keep 2 days of Yom Tov. In Eretz Yisrael, they keep 1 day of Yom Tov. In other words, Pesach, to keep the first day and the last day is Yom Tov. We keep the first and second day as not to do any work. And we have 9 days on Sukkot we have 9 days, and Pesach we have 8 days, and in Israel they have 8 and 7. The reason for that is because it's a little complicated, but before it's mentioned the lunar year. The Jewish people go by the moon year, not the sun year. That means every time the moon goes around around the earth, it's a 29 and a half days. And when is Rosh Chodesh, the first day of the month, they had witnesses who saw the new moon would come to the high court and say, we saw the new moon. And if they said they saw the new moon, so based in, the court would proclaim that day Rosh Chodesh. Every day in Jewish calendar, a month is either 29 days or 30 days. It can't be 28, it can't be 31. It's either 29 days or 30 days each month. So if they saw the new moon a day earlier, so Rosh Chodesh was the 30th day, and the old month was 29 days. If they saw the new moon a day later, so Rosh Chodesh was the 31st day, and the old month was 30 days. So it depended on when the witnesses came to the court to say when they saw the new moon, that little crack, the new moon that they saw. So the holidays are based on Rosh Chodesh. When's the first day of the month? The first day of the month is the day earlier. Pesach will come out a day earlier. If the new moon, the new Chodesh starts a day later, Pesach comes out a day later. So people had to know which day was Rosh Chodesh. What was the first day of the month? They don't. Otherwise, when is Pesach? When is Sukkot? When is Rosh Hashanah? So they had to find out which day was Rosh Chodesh. When did the witnesses come to the High Court, and the High Court proclaimed that this is the beginning of the month. So people close by, they sent out messengers. Well, it's interesting. They used to send by fires. They used to go on top of the mountains and make a fire. And the next mountain, people were standing and they saw the fire, they make another fire. Through the whole land of Israel, from one mountain to the next mountain, they found out when Rosh Chodesh, and that even out of it, Bavel and Babylonia, they're also able to see the fires from a distance. So that's how I used to proclaim, there was no doubt. But then we had these wicked people who wanted to mix up everybody, so used to make fires falsely, to make the people think, they had the reasons why they did, I can't go into the whole thing, but they had the wicked people who used to mislead everybody and make fires on the wrong day. So therefore, people didn't know when Rosh Chodesh. So they had to start a new system, sending out messengers who were known to the people that they went to as people to rely on, and they used to go to different places that Rosh Chodesh was this day. They went to the next place, but came to Bavel, it took more than 15 days to travel there. Like I said, today, you just get in the car and you pick up the phone, whatever it is. But those times there was no phone, there was no cars, and it took a long time to travel to Babylon. It took over 15 days. Now it came the 15th day of the month. When is Pesach? Was Rosh Chodesh a day earlier? Was a day later? So they had to keep 2 days, not knowing which the right day is. In Israel itself, they knew which day it was because they can get around the whole land by the 15th day when Pesach starts. Everybody knew when Rosh Chodesh was. But it came out of inland of Israel that they couldn't get there so fast, so they had to keep 2 days because they weren't sure when Rosh Chodesh was. So therefore, even today that we know, but we still keep that minhag, that tradition, that out of Israel we keep 2 days. Even today we know when Rosh Chodesh was, but since they kept it at that time, we never know what could happen in the future. So out of Israel we keep 2 days, and Israel keep 1 day. I hope that explained it the best way possible.
Yeah. I was trying to find out, like, if let's say someone live here, like for some years, and he's going to Israel for the holidays, does he need to keep 2 days?
Yes.
And if someone come from Israel, if he's coming here, but he live in Israel, just coming for the holidays, if he need to keep the 2 days or just 1 day?
Yes, he has to. You have to. We say you give the strictness to the place that you came from, and the strictness to the place you came to. So if you come from a place that you expect to, if you expect to settle in Israel, then you keep 1 day. If you leave this country, you go to Israel, expect to settle there, then you keep 1 day, like everybody else does this. But if you expect to go back to Galut, then you have to keep 2 days. If someone from Israel comes to this country, even though he expects to go back, if he expects to stay here, he's obligated to keep 2 days. If he expects to go back to the land of Israel, he has to keep 2 days because that's the minhag hamokom. He can't change from the place that he's in. He has to keep those. Of course, he puts a tefillin. He'll put on the second day betzina, privately, not in front of everybody else. Puts on tefillin. Certain laws he'll have to keep, but secretly, people shouldn't see him doing it because it causes a whole uproar. What are you doing? But basically, openly, he has to keep 2 days when you come here, and a person going there has to keep 2 days since he expects to go back to this country.
Rabbi Mintz said there was a prescription how one could save themselves from Chevlei Mashiach. What is the prescription? What can one do?
Well, there are different words from Chazal, and some of them are people who keep 3 dinners, meals in Shabbat, Shabbos to keep very carefully. That's one thing mentioned. To be and chesed, in acts of kindness, is another thing that's mentioned that person was very careful with, and they do it abundantly. They'll be saved from the pains of Mashiach. Those are 2 examples. We can get together the whole bunch of them. Offhand, those come to mind at this time. Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, we have a question here.
Yes.
Rabbi Mintz was just explaining why we keep 2 days of the holidays. Why do we not keep 2 days of Yom Kippur?
It's a very good question. There were some people who kept 2 days of Yom Kippur, but we can't keep it because it's dangerous to fast 2 days. At the time, then there was a real question that the shluchim, the message did not reach. They kept 2 days Yom Kippur, best they could. I mean, they didn't do malacha, they didn't do any work, but fasting, they couldn't fast 2 days straight, so they went according to the majority. Majority of times, because they knew the month of Tishrei it was known that how many days it was, the month of Elul, and it was kept pretty much all the years, very few exceptions. The month of Elul, they knew when it was, and Rosh Hashanah started. So therefore, since they knew mostly 99% of the time, they went according to the 99% because fast 2 days Yom Kippur is dangerous. But malacha they didn't do. They didn't do any work and so on because of the suffix. But to fast for 2 days, certainly today that we know when it is, so we don't keep it because it's dangerous to keep. But there were some outstanding special people who used to fast 2 days Yom Kippur. But we're not ready for that. It's a good question. Any others? No. Okay, so everybody have a wonderful summer, and hope to see you next season again.
Everybody, please.